Zionism, the political ideology advocating for the establishment and support of a so-called Jewish state in the historic land of Palestine, has been a subject of debate and contention since its inception in the late 19th century. Zionism embodies many of the same principles and structures that anarchists oppose, such as hierarchy, authoritarianism, and the imposition of state power. In this video, we will examine Zionism through the lens of anarchism, focusing on its implications for power dynamics, colonialism, and the perpetuation of statehood. Anarchism fundamentally opposes the concentration and abuse of power, whether it be wielded by the state, capital, or other hierarchical structures. Zionism, however, inherently relies on the assertion and maintenance of power over a territory inhabited by diverse communities, including Palestinians. The establishment of the State of Israel involved the displacement and dispossession of indigenous Palestinian populations, a process that continues to this day through policies of occupation, settlement expansion, genocide, and discriminatory laws. This racist and colonial abuse of power not only violates the principles of anarchism, but also perpetuates cycles of violence and oppression. Zionism has also historically aligned itself with imperialist powers, seeking support and validation from external states such as Britain and the United States. This reliance on external sources of power undermines claims of genuine self-determination and sovereignty, instead entrenching Israel within global systems of domination and exploitation. True liberation cannot be achieved through collaboration with oppressive structures, but must emerge from autonomous grassroots movements and collective action. Anarchism condemns colonialism in all its forms, recognizing it as a system of domination and exploitation that subjugates indigenous peoples and erases their cultures and identities. Zionism, however, has been deeply intertwined with colonial practices, as evidenced by the establishment of Israeli Jewish settlements on land stolen from Palestinian communities. The Zionist project involved the colonization of Palestine, which meant the brutal mass killing and displacement of many Palestinians and the imposition of a settler colonial regime. Zionism has also employed tactics of ethnic cleansing and segregation to maintain Israeli Jewish demographic domination within Israel and the occupied territories. This process mirrors the colonial strategies employed by European powers in other parts of the world, where indigenous populations were marginalized in their own lands. We anarchists reject colonialism as a violation of human dignity and autonomy, advocating instead for solidarity among oppressed peoples and the dismantling of colonial structures. Central to anarchism is the rejection of the state as a coercive and hierarchical institution that serves the interests of the ruling class at the expense of the ordinary people. Zionism, however, seeks to establish and maintain a so-called Jewish state with its apparatus of government, military, and bureaucracy. This pursuit of statehood necessarily involves the imposition of borders, laws, and institutions that restrict individual freedom and perpetuate social inequalities and violence. The Zionist project also entails the construction of a nationalist narrative that prioritizes the interests of the Israeli Jewish nation-state over those of other communities, leading to the marginalization and oppression of Palestinian citizens of Israel, as well as those living under occupation. We anarchists argue that true liberation cannot be achieved within the confines of statehood, but requires the abolition of all forms of authority and the creation of non-hierarchical, decentralised forms of organisation that facilitate the freedom and autonomy of the individual. It is a claim of Zionists that Jewish people need the State of Israel as they are unsafe in other parts of the world. For decades now, this has been clearly proven to be false. In many parts of the world, including Europe and North America, many Jewish people have been perfectly safe, some of them also enjoying a good middle class standard of living. It's also the case that when it comes to racist bigotry against black people and brown people is much more of a serious problem and is more prevalent and accepted than bigotry against Jewish people. Another claim of Zionists is that the State of Israel represents all Jewish people. Yet these days, many Jewish people totally reject this claim and or do not approve of what the State of Israel or the Israeli government are doing. Zionism is a good example of the oppressive structures that we anarchists seek to dismantle. Its reliance on authoritarianism, racism, nationalism, colonialism, apartheid, genocide, and statehood runs completely counter to the principles of autonomy, freedom, equality, and mutual aid that are central to anarchism. As anarchists, we stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people in their struggle against occupation and oppression, recognizing their entitlement to self-determination. Only through the rejection of hierarchical power structures and the creation of truly independent and secular grassroots movements based on principles of justice and equality, and only through the destruction of capitalism and the state can true liberation be achieved for all people. Thank you for listening, everyone. All the best.